had a really, really not fun time lately and come to the conclusion that it is because of intrusive thoughts. I know OCD is something that some of us deal with. We just haven't had time to focus on it because the CPTSD symptoms were worse. So now I'm really noticing that, which I think is cool in some ways. It's really not cool in some probably very obvious ways. So what we're doing to deal with it right now is I've been looking into different types of the therapies used. Hold on, just so I don't accidentally film people. So 2 different types of therapy. One is involves sitting with uncertainty basically and kind of learning to tolerate it, which we do that a lot anyway. But it's kind of exhausting. And I want a better way to feel better because I'm really good at feeling awful for a very long time and not letting it affect my behaviour. And I'm kind of sick of being so good at feeling awful for a really long time and doing stuff anyway. So the other one I've been looking at, I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but side note for editing verses, could one of y'all or me please add a link to that? I've learned not to vlog while I'm crossing roads because we dissociate. So one involves you rehook your sense. Basically its suggestion is that what's going wrong with intrusive thoughts is that the brain is accidentally giving too much weight to fantasy over reality. It's like a break from reality. And I was like, that makes sense with the depersonalization, derealization as well. Overlap between OCD and trauma. Cool, get that. So what's happening is instead of your brain trusting your senses, you might know that you've locked the door, but your brain gives you reasons for why you could be wrong. So basically, ultimately, this therapy suggests it's a break in your ability to believe your own reality. And that if you find a way to reconnect the trust in your senses of what reality is telling you, you can break the loop before the obsession comes in. Instead of having to sit and tolerate the uncertainty from the obsessive thoughts without acting on compulsions that are generated by them, you basically reconnect your belief in your own senses and in your observations of reality, and then it doesn't develop into obsessions and compulsions. So we've been trying to do that, working out how to do that, and I find that speaking out loud, probably because we're a system, is very necessary as well, and that's really been helping. So when I left the house just now, I switched the straighteners off, I paused to notice sensory grounding. I felt the switch, and I spoke out loud as I was doing it for other people in here to say, I know I am switching the straighteners off because I can trust what my senses are telling me, because I believe in myself, and because I believe the information coming in. My sense of touch tells me the button has just switched off. My sense of hearing tells me I can hear it switched off. Then I'm looking at it. I know I can see it in the off position. And now I've left, and I will let you know whether or not I get any obsessive thoughts or compulsive thoughts about that. So far, it literally hasn't entered my mind until going, this is a good point to evidence what we've been doing with. So it's looking good. It has been very effective. Very, very effective indeed. There's been absolutely no intrusive thoughts about the straighteners. I haven't had it play through my head. I haven't even thought about it other than to think, wow, that worked really well. So it's a huge relief. Great for that. For other things that are more identity based, it's a bit complicated, and because of all the comorbidities, I guess, and having to work out how to translate it to being a system, it's not that simple, because although in theory it's just you reconnect your senses and your belief in your senses, but with dissociative amnesia, depersonalization and derealization, and the fact that we don't have each other's memories, there's a reason that that's all difficult to do in the first place. So we have to find ways to go around that. And I do find that like speaking out loud helps a little bit. It transfers the information at least, so that multiple people can be aware of it. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has it. So, and then also transferring like sensory information, that's not necessarily something we can all just share. So it's hard to have belief in a sense you haven't felt. And so it helps some of us, but I imagine that's still going to be something we have to work out how to work together to get around. And then things that are more identity-based, like I had an interaction with somebody who was super cool and complimented us on how we looked, and I was really appreciative, but I had intrusive thoughts the entire conversation, and like playthroughs of what I look like, not accurate, but just, I guess, bad interpretations of my behaviour. I think that's probably the main intrusive thoughts I get, and it makes socialising really hard. And I'm not really sure how I reconnect to my senses when it's like about my sense of self. I guess I need to somehow build that up so that it's something I can actually feel, because most of the time I can't. That's probably why it breaks down so easily. So still a work in progress for that, but for the straighteners and other things like that, really cool, really good. Also, really appreciative because, okay, this is mad, right? But if I'm ice cold and he takes over, he's warmer. Like, for some reason the body divides in half because we've probably been co-fronting together for 1,000 years. But because you tend to take the left and I tend to take the right, the left hand is hotter than the right. Noticeably, demonstrably, reliably, repeatedly so. It's so mad. But it's also really cool, and it means that if I'm freezing cold, you front and I warm up. So that's been really cool. Also being able to just totally blank people next to us in coffee shops as we have a conversation and not feel anxiety about their response or focus on their response or like how I'm being observed by them. Very cool.
You know, you are getting good at that, actually. I notice it. You don't tense up anymore either if I speak.
Yeah, that's really cool.